Distinguished guests this morning, let me first of all recognize the co-chairman of GCEL, Captain Salum, the Deputy Secretary General of GCEL, Her Excellency Nancy Bakia, and the High Commissioner of the Arab Leagues, and all the distinguished guests here this morning. On behalf of my delegation that is here this morning, and also on behalf of the African Union and the African Union Commission, we are so happy to be with you here today and to start this new and exciting venture. New because we have not had strong partnerships with the firms based in the Middle East. And I think for your choice to be in Lebanon, to be in Beirut is instructive. As we landed and as we got through the airport, I could see the efficiency and the courtesy that greeted us. And we very much felt at home being here. And we want, on behalf of the delegation, to say thank you very much for showing us the way. This journey that we start today is one that we have waited for some time in Africa. The statistics of the continent do not adequately describe what the continent should be today. A continent of 1 billion people, a continent rich of resources, most of all the human endowment, has just total GDP of 1.7 trillion. If that was equitable, that GDP at least should be over 10 billion. So you can see that Africa is just using about 10% of its potential. In fact, looked at from the point of trade, Africa's global trade is just about 3%. And even within the continent, Africa's intra-trade is just about 10%. But things are changing. Things are changing. In the last 10 years, Africa now can boast of having 6 of the fastest growing economies in the world. Why is that the case? It is because of reforms. And most of these reforms are software reforms. Good policies, governance, and institutional, and first of all, human resource factor that has come of age. Where is Africa going? It is instructive that we are here today to talk about logistics and efficiency. In a year when Africa has decided to embark on a journey to create a continental free trade area by 2017. In January this year, and I know you followed it very closely, our heads of state and government decided that it is time for Africa to establish a continental free trade area that will build on what is already on the ground through regional economic communities, one of which, as the introductory remark says, I used to head. And maybe I will say something about what Africa has already done. In my tenure as Secretary General of the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, one of the challenging situations that we faced was how to increase intra-regional trade. And we found the biggest challenge was our lack of competitiveness. It was sad to find in our studies that even products grown in the continent, produced in the continent, manufactured in the continent, competitive because within the factories where they were produced, they were as competitive as any in the world. But when you moved those products from where they were produced to the next market, you lost your competitiveness. And we had many examples, very many examples. I'll give you one sad one. Maize produced in Uganda, trying to sell it in Zambia, a distance of about 2,000 kilometers, we found Africa could not compete with Brazil that was producing a maize and deliver it in Zambia cheaper than coming from Uganda. Why? Logistics. Logistics, because of transshipment, because of poor roads, and because of human barriers crossing borders. And so we started a program generally under trade facilitation. No wonder, even under the WTO, Doha Round, the only agreement that is harvested as we speak now is the trade facilitation, because everybody has recognized that this is indeed a challenge, as you indicate, that if addressed, we could increase trade by 1.2 trillion and create 100 million jobs. Now, if you consider that, that is a huge, huge, huge benefit to the global economy. And I believe most of that is to the African continent. This is why we were so happy when actually we met GCEL. And for me, I have even kept telling my colleagues, is this a true story? Because each time I look at your objectives, each time I look at the membership, each time I look at what you look at to achieve, I just simply can't believe it. And so I can't wait for it to happen. Of course, we're here today to sign the MOU. And I was talking to the captain downstairs. One of the things he quickly mentioned is that, yes, we do have many MOUs that are signed but not implemented. But he quickly went on to say, we have to make a difference with this one. I believe we have come together at the right time, or put it as one of the examples that was illustrated here, just in time. Africa is waiting to move to be part of the global economy because globalization is here to stay. And for us to do that, we have to benchmark ourselves against the best in the world. We have to take Africa to the global economy. And that requires for us to look at how best we can do our business, how Africa can be competitive. When we, in January, started this program of the Continental Free Trade Area, we looked at factors that affect Africa's competitiveness. One of them is infrastructure. And Africa has embarked on massive, massive investment in infrastructure. But we know that investment in infrastructure is not the end of the story. It's well and good to have this infrastructure. We have many borders in Africa where trucks come to the border and stay for 2 weeks before they cross over. And we know that each day a truck is waiting to cross at the border is 1% additional cost to the cost of the product they are carrying. After 10 days, it's 10% of the cost. That tells you why we can't be competitive. We also looked at issues to do with financing, and I noticed in the short video that we looked at, the center was the issue of global competitiveness. Africa is paying huge costs in terms of cost of financing. It's another area that we need to look at very closely. We also looked at the issue of productivity of the continent, the efficiency of productivity. The reason many multinationals have not been looking at Africa is first, the cost of doing business is just too high, and the productivity is not to the global standard. Now, it's not because the Africans are not competitive, but it is because we have not developed the software to expose the continent to the modern tools that can bring Africa to the global age of doing business. And that's why I said you have come just in time when we in Africa have that desire, have that commitment, and are ready to partner and do business. On our part, we're looking forward to the discussions this afternoon, to signing of the MOU, and more importantly, being on the ground and doing it. And for that, I come here to assure you that you have a partner that is ready to work with you, and thank you very much.